Welcome, and thank you for joining us in this virtual conversation with our current Critical Breaks residency artist, Délise. I am Aaron L. McKinney, Executive Director of High Arts. For accessibility, I will provide a visual description. I am a caramel-complexioned black male with a high-top haircut with blonde tips and faded sides. I have a connecting beard and goatee. I have on a black hoodie, and I'm sitting in front of an exposed brick wall. I take this time to acknowledge the people and the land that High Arts office and studio space is situated on. We honor the Munsee Lenape and Wappinger people that cultivated this soil now known as East Harlem, New York. As we approach the end of Black History Month, where most of the country highlights the numerous and diverse contributions of Black Americans, we want you to know that here at High Arts, we celebrate Black history all year through our programming and artist support. You can find more information about all of our exciting artists, programming, and opportunities by visiting our website, www.hi-artsnyc.org. That's www.high-artsnyc.org, or on social media at High Arts NYC. We have some absolutely amazing artists that you will want to keep your eye on. Of course, it takes a team to do this work, and I love to brag on the wonderful and growing staff of High Arts. Thank you, Joyous, Brittany, Eleanor, Nicole, Issa, Masood, and Kirya. I would also like to thank our ASL interpreters from First Choice Interpreting Service. This organization would not be able to continue its operations and programming without the wonderful support of funders and individuals like you. We appreciate you sharing your time and financial resources with us. Again, visit www.high-artsnyc.org to make a financial contribution. I look forward to seeing you all soon, either in person or virtually. Feel free to like, share, and comment as you enjoy this conversation.
Hello, everyone. I am already giggling, thinking about having a conversation with this artist tonight. My name is Kirya Traber, pronounced she, her. I'm curator in residence with High Arts, and I am at my apartment in Brooklyn, also on unceded Lenape territory. A quick visual description: I am a light brown-skinned Black woman with gold wire-rimmed glasses. My hair is in a bun on top of my head. I have on yellow, black, and white earrings and a blue sweater. And behind me is a white wall with some plants. And I am joined tonight by Délise, who is so many things. A writer, theater artist, and producer based in Harlem, New York. She's performed at the United Nations, the Schomburg Center, the Pulitzer Center, and Carnegie Hall, among many other illustrious institutions. But more importantly, she is Black and magic. And we also have a special guest hanging out with us as well, who we'll introduce later. You might see lurking, perhaps meditating in the back. Before I throw it over to our guests to introduce themselves more, I do want to share the title of the work that we're talking about tonight. And art, an exact and historically accurate retelling of the human experience. And I want to share that title because I think that Jay, your style of art, and we'll later talk about satire and all that, is in everything you do, including in the way you title your work. And I just think you're such a I just every little detail is worth pointing out. So Jay, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with us here at High Arts as a comic artist?
Yeah. So I think I and almost everyone here has explained this work that we've been doing as chaos, and it absolutely is that. Um, I have been running around doing a bunch of different things, and so far this process has been very, very helpful for me. I've mostly been looking at the flow of an audience, and so understanding how audiences make decisions about where they decide to move throughout the space, and so all of the different opportunities to make decisions to move or not move have been challenging, but they exist, and we got to it. And yeah, I'm just excited to have this opportunity. It's been really cool.
Great. I wanna zoom out a little bit and be a
Yeah.
little more introductory to folks who maybe this is their first time checking out what's happening
Mhm.
at High Arts this week. So you're doing a hybrid virtual and in-person
Yes.
performance. So there are folks who can tune in by watching a continuous live stream, and there are folks who can come to the space via timed tickets and actually experience you and your performance and the installation that you've done live and in person. So there's a lot of things to figure out and negotiate when you're in the space because you've actually kind of taken over like 2 or 3 spaces in the High Art Studio. Um,
Yeah.
and so I asked you this before in one of our prep conversations, but I'd love for you to share now. Would you say that your medium is more live performance or video, or where do you find yourself on that line right now?
I think just like a person that loves the absurd and loves the rejection of excellence, I am somewhere all in between, up, underneath, beyond, and behind. I think that I think both mediums are really great for me for different reasons. And I guess this project is definitely the battle of the bands of my how I use both things. But so far, I think before I was a person that definitely loved creating things to be experienced digitally and experimenting more with live performance. And I think I've kind of flipped flipped it, which has been really fun. So who can say? But I think that right now I am really excited about uh, all the ways I found to kind of join the two. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about how you make in a moment, but first I want to get into a little more like what I was alluding to about your style of making. So, I when I read the title of your piece, there was quotation marks, exact, historically accurate. I mean, I would comfortably say that you're working in the realm of satire, and then some other words that you've used in your own bio to describe your work is Dada and Buffon, which are some really mid 20th century, early to mid 20th century styles of making that still live and thrive today, but aren't maybe as commonly explored. Can you talk a little bit about what those things mean to you and why they excite you so much?
Yeah, and I say this I think maybe every chance that I get when I start talking about the things that I do, but going to surprise clown school in undergrad was definitely something that contributed to my reimagining of how performance can happen. Um, and so I kind of fell in love with clown and Dada, specifically Dada, because I think and Sapphire, the character, she's actually she's taken a vow of silence, so she's participating in the ways that she can.
Right.
Um, so, but she is here with us both in this realm and beyond. But Sapphire originally began, I'll talk a little bit about her, as a basically, I was in clown school and there were so many people who were so great at clowning, and I didn't understand it. I was completely unsure about the magic of what it was. And I was so frustrated that it wasn't something that I had access to. So I made myself the expert on it, and Sapphire was born. And so reading about Dada and the ways that, like, it's not as simple as just rejecting excellence or the structures that don't serve us or the structures that keep people out. It's deeper than that. It's more so actually taking the thing that is so scary to disobey and making it the joke that it actually is. And it's, for me, been a great way to process a lot of things that frustrate me.
Yeah. In one of our early conversations, you used the expression, I like to put the boogeyman on stage.
Yeah.
Which I thought was such a brilliant image. And also, like, that is scary. It's mm-hmm. like you're taking on, in another one of your descriptions, you say, you explain the problems of the world by using their ingredients. So there's a sort of like risky kind of play here where you could be reperforming something that's violent or oppressive, but you're like going there and pushing that limit. What do you think? Do you think that's something that you've always been interested in, maybe even before you discovered Dada, or did Dada open you up to that?
Yeah, I think I've always been, and I don't know if it gets too woo-woo, but I've always been a person that I think has observed the world in a very different way. And often I find myself kind of just a step removed from the rest of everyone. And for all of my life, I have found myself at many intersections being like, why do we do that? What is that? Why? That doesn't make sense. What? People are like, we just do it. We just do it. And so I've always been a person that does that. And I've always been a person to ask way too many questions. And I've always been comfortable with the thing that we hold so near and dear not existing anymore. And so discovering Dada kind of gave me a way to express that other than just interrupting people. So.
Well, yeah. And you're sort of speaking to, there's many structures in our life, many institutions, school, workplaces, even within the, the lovely theater, where asking why can be seen as a threat, particularly if you are a person of color or someone who is non-binary or a woman. It's like, why are you questioning me? Says the authority.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've always had that sort of fearless why in you, and you've turned it into art.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're taking down, because there's many things you could be mocking through your performance, but you are particularly interested in theater as a space of mockery, this sort of industrial complex, if you will, the Broadway industrial complex, as you said. Can you talk more about your thoughts on that?
Oh, can I? How much time do we have?
We have about 45 minutes. So
thank you. So 46, it'll roughly take the answer. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've always been, I can definitely say, I reference clown school all the time, but I can say, as I was joining the theater scene in the UK, coming from the theater scene here in America, I completely, it made it so easy because it's for a number of reasons. Arts is funded differently there. People have more access to it, blah, blah, blah. But it became a lot easier for me to question and make fun of the things because I had seen one alternative, which made everything that we do seem even sillier. So I don't know. And I think definitely recently been seeing a lot of the things that I have seen here. And speaking to a lot of artists and being an artist and knowing all of the things that we're asked to participate in that are in addition to us making art, that don't necessarily serve the art. how artist development isn't really artist development often. It's hard to, and this has been a special case because I'm so used to coming into spaces and saying, here is the finished product already, and I know that it goes with your values and your mission statement, and your board will love it, and here's why we should do it, and everything's done, and you don't have to help me. But in here, it's been completely different because I tried to come in with that, and they were like, that's so nice, but like, what do you need? And like, how can the work go from an idea to how you actually want to express it? And so experiencing things that are not the Broadway industrial complex and echoes of that has really, really helped me understand what exactly I'm frustrated with. And it's not necessarily the fact that I don't like this show or that playwright or that institution. It's not that minuscule. It's mostly, there are so many things that are taking up our time that aren't serving us, and there are so many ways that we could be supporting the artists, each other, institutions, theater as a whole. If we just stop doing these things, there's less steps. There's less steps. So yeah.
Well said. Absolutely. Yeah. And I harken back to, so I relate to your story in some ways. I came to theater later in my artistic career. I mean, later considerably, because a lot of theater kids start when they're 5, 6, 7, 8. And I came in when I was 25, 26, 27, 8. Yeah. And so I'd already been making some work. And believe it or not, it was poetry where I felt like I was being respected and like paid even as an artist. And then I came into theater and was asked to do everything for free.
Everything.
For exposure, for opportunities, and it's incredibly exploitative, incredibly extractive.
Yeah.
And theater, as it's held up as an ideal, so often is like, oh, this is for folks who are outside the theater, right? And particularly for folks who probably are coming from like a white heteronormative American ideology, but like, oh, theater where you can like play and be free, and it's more democratic and improvisorial. Theater is rigid and hierarchical, and the hierarchy structures are so assumed, as you said, that dangerous why, right? If an actor this is, at least when I was in grad school, and things are barely starting to shift now, right? Yeah. But when, as an actor, if you ask, why are we doing it this way? You can get fired. You can get, if you're in an audition and you're like, do I have to do this accent because this character is Black? You don't get the part.
Yep. And I talked a lot about that because obviously it all goes back to me reading too many books, but this all started because I started my my graduate thesis. See, it all goes back to, you guys, listen, graduate school. But my thesis was basically about the terrible, don't do it. The commercialization of theater and what it takes from us. Looking, because I'm doing a theater management producing degree, and so I mostly look at all of the ways in which theater can happen. And I was finding always that everything is a little bit to the left of what it should be. And it's mostly because of the way that we make the theater, not necessarily, it could, and which bleeds into the culture around theater, which bleeds into the ways artists are artists and blah, 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 blah. But what the commercialization of theater takes from us is our ability to actually use art as an expression of yourself. For the service of that only. And so, talking about, we're taught, it begins very early on, but even talking about grad school, you're taught that like, well, if you don't want to do it, there's the scarcity mentality. There's 50 other people who are your type, who look exactly like you, that can do everything that you can do, who are willing to do that. So when you get in that room, you just say, yes, 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 yes. And, that it's a product of commercialization. It's a product of how little time we have to make art and how little time we actually have in the room. And so when, everyone is under the impression that there's a small amount of whatever for everyone, you just do it and get through it, and we just do it because I just want to do that, and so whatever I need to do that, and that's not necessarily the case.
I'm curious, this is a bit of an unplanned question, but hearing you speak on that and naming the scarcity mentality that drives so much of how commercial theater is structured, right? Like there's only one role for you, and there's a million actors, and that.
Right.
And the same thing is true for playwrights and directors in their own ways as well, but they're higher up on the hierarchy.
Yeah.
For me, the pandemic was a powerful equalizer, because institutions that were regulating this kind of scarcity, they couldn't do anything. They were, yeah. And it was only institutions, not to toot our own horn, but institutions like High Arts, and there are other ones as well that are development focused, that could continue to make and do things during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Because our aim is not exclusively commercial, as in selling tickets, but otherwise, there was no carrot to chase, because the carrot just got snipped off the cord.
Yep.
And I found myself remembering again, oh, right, making for me. And I know that the pandemic had a big impact on your work as well. And I'm curious if you could talk more about how you found yourself shifting and settling in that time.
Yeah, there were so many different parts of me that had so many different feelings about the pandemic. As from an artist perspective, I felt two things. I think part of it was like, oh, well, if nothing's happening, anything can happen. But also another part of me was like looking around and seeing like a lot of people freaked out. A lot of people freaked out because a lot of people's tools and toys were taken away from them. And a lot of people were forced to kind of put up or shut up. And I think when we don't support artists in the ways that we don't, a lot of people were in the pandemic unsure of how to make art outside of workshop, out of town tryout, not for profit. You know what I mean? And so being frustrated with all of that, being frustrated for people who felt that way, and being frustrated because there are people that feel that way, which is why we were, doing musicals on Zoom. Because I don't know how many times Hello Dolly needs to be. Anyway, so, but also and art began. People see they're gonna cut us off. It began as I was in this tiny little apartment, and I was taking an oral history class, and basically we were doing so many different exercises where they were like, remember, and I was like, remember what? And I just, what am I? And at that time, I was also in a deep drought. I had writer's block, because another person, I also started writing poetry. I didn't write for 2 years after I wrote a huge, like full collection, like 50-page book. And commercialization happened to me. And I'm here to tell my story. And after it happened, it ripped every single thing from, I was just sitting there like, how do I make an art? And I was being asked in this class to make art. And I was like, what? And what I fell back on was Dada, and was, okay, well, you can't make art, but you're just sitting here mad. So what are you mad about? Okay, make it funny. I don't know. And so it took me, I don't know, having everything taken away from me. And in that moment, what I realized, and I think what now fuels me, is that, and it's actually it's on the wall when you come in. The quote, part of the quote says, "Art will never kill me." And then it says fart sounds underneath. But what I found is that, you have to have both. But what I found is that, art will always be, and for us, and it will never die, because artists will always have their art, because artists will always have themselves. So as long as people exist to express themselves, art will never die. We may not have 87 more revivals in the Broadway box. We may not have, another slave play, but listen, we have ourselves, and we have each other. And that's the kind of art I want to see. Me for president.
Yes, rah rah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? It's like, first of all, I want a support group and or a J Délise piece called "Commercialization Happened to Me."
Thank
Um,
you.
but also, like, that's the trick of commercialization, right? Is that we
Yeah.
then think that art is glossy product. We think art
Mhm.
is what happens when art is funded, which is lovely. Love to have funded art. And we love spectacle. We love a song. We love a dance.
Right.
But it's also art if it's cheap and if it's solo and if it's
Yeah.
you and your homie on the couch. It's also art. And
Yeah.
it's also for us forever. So thank you for that. Um, I can't go a moment longer without introducing your collaborator,
Yes.
who is um, perhaps on the other side of this dialogue, who stands for the institution.
Yes.
um, this brilliant character you've created, Sapphire. Wait, how do you pronounce the last name?
So there's okay. I gave this note to the marketing team. I said her last name is spelled as the spirit moves, and I will tell you, I will tell you that originally I would like to credit Adam Banks, who was in my undergrad, who basically what had happened was sometimes when people are from Liverpool or Wirral, you can't understand them, and Sapphire's original name was first Sapphire, but we were talking about something, and basically he said, "This is fire crotch." I said, "Huh?" And it sounded vaguely like her name, and so her name is Sapphire Crouch. But when you say it from really quickly, and you're from Liverpool, it sounds like it's a fire crotch. So
Okay, great. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do in these talkbacks, which is read a whole bio. But as I
yeah.
said, this bio is a work of art because Jay really put your foot in this.
Thank you. Or as Sapphire would say, "Merci beaucoup."
Okay. Sapphire Crutch, she, her, is a performer, philanthropist, model, writer, historian, scholar, filmmaker, doula, social worker, political artivist, anti racism coach, vulva bearing femme, white woman of color, experiencing creating art at the intersections of performance art, endurance art, mime, dance, and feminist screaming. In her time at NYADA, Performance Art College, and conservatory in the city of New York, she studied her prolific instructions as a Wesley Snipes and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Wait, sorry. Let me go
Mm.
back. At her time at NYADA, Performance Art and College Conservatory in the city of New York, she studied under prolific instructors such as Wesley Snipes and Lin-Manuel Miranda. She received her PhD in Engaging Your Core from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry International Wiggling Academy, located in LaGuardia Airport. Her short film, This Cat and All That, a documentary that followed the tour of her performance art piece, Beat O, The Artist Won't Be There, solidified her EGOT status and propelled her into the world of premium, dynamically priced mentorship and guruism. An ally, a listener, and a friend, Sapphire is truly a pillar of the arts. What a figure, what a legend.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
They're clapping in the back. Thank you.
if you find yourself on the High Arts Instagram, you'll see some really excellent archival photography of Sapphire
Yes.
holding up all of the other pillars of performance art
Yeah.
and theater history, as is her place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And she really is your collaborator in this
Yeah.
project. So, can you talk a little bit about this collaboration with this incredible figure?
Yes. Sapphire has been a very wow. She is a personification of a lot of jokes that I have made and a lot of things that I have experienced and a lot of diversity at the table inclusion seminars that I have had to attend that were 5 hours long. So she is the personification of all of that. She does all of the things that the commercialization of theater does to us. She misinterprets my work. I mean, she's been going around telling everyone that this is a, gut-wrenching piece about slavery in the 1950s or whatever, which doesn't make sense. She, constantly inserts herself in my work and steals my things and and talks over me and ignores me, but also tells me that my seat at the table is so important and thank you and like such as. Yes, she is a white woman of colored experience. Sorry, I'm looking at it. And so it's been great to kind of, throw little darts at the things I'm upset at through Sapphire. And so, yeah, that has been super fun. And also just lying is always, I think, good for the soul. And so through her, I get to do that as well.
Yeah, you really had me at vulva bearing femme white woman of colored experience. That's just...
Thank you. Because that's too many. It's too many. It's too many.
Oh, but it's so like you could almost imagine someone saying that and everyone else being like, yes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We see you and hear you. And as we sit together at the collective table of our community, we wonder, we have to ponder. It's just things, just sentences that are words constructed together that don't actually mean anything. Yeah, that's her.
Yep. And so this is what we were saying earlier. This is you putting the boogeyman on stage. Yeah. This is you leaning into all the things that are harmful and making fun, having fun, absolutely having fun with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just want to let folks at home know that I think tomorrow they can come to High Arts and meet Sapphire. Is that correct?
Yes. So she is here. Obviously, like I said, she's definitely still doing her vow of silence. It's actually, I believe it's what I've been told is that she is now taking the vow of silence to commemorate all of the voices of color that have been silenced by the greater white institutions that do not serve us. And she also apparently is planting a garden of flowers. If you bring her a flower, she will plant it in her garden, and each flower represents a voice of color, as she puts it. But yes, she she will be here. She is here. She is doing art, and she's very excited to meet her fans, the public. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
And I want to tease again for the audience that might consider making it tomorrow that there's glitter curtains and lighting and it's a whole experience.
The room of balls that Joyous made. I shout out to Joyous. Joyous was the one that constructed the ballroom.
They're beautiful. It's really lovely. And yeah, you've really got the High Art staff into it. I think I saw on the live stream that everyone's a little bit in character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's so great. So you spoke a little bit about how this has been different for you, which we love to hear. And then also in one of our prep meetings, I asked you, what does making look like for you? What is your process? And you said then, and I just want to prompt you again to remember what you said. Setting up the environment so that a thing can happen. And so can you just walk us through a moment of creation?
Yeah. You picked the best part of that soliloquy that I said. Thank you for representing me correctly and in a very nice and sparkly way. Because I did indeed say I like to lay on the floor of a black box with the lights off. So I definitely did say that. And so that might have been a little bit, but honestly,
it's all part of the process.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. I normally like to, and I think I said this today, I am really inspired by playing. I have to be able, when I'm allowed to not be excellent, I love starting a process of being like, no, this has to be bad. It has to be the worst thing that anyone's ever seen. When you take away that, it has to be a finished product that you can then perform, and then I don't know, another door opens. Perhaps it's a alleyway or whatever. But I just find myself getting most of my ideas from sitting and laughing with friends, from seeing, and I will also say that I will never say no to a free ticket. So something that also inspires me is, seeing
you lean in so that people give you free tickets? Yeah, great.
Yes, that is something that inspires me as an artist. And if you would like to support me, I accept all free tickets. But it is true that I think I try not to say no to seeing a lot of theater, and it's even better if it's bad. And I like being able to, I have so many friends that will come and see theater with me and like yell about it afterwards. But like just that idea of yelling about something horrible that I've seen, or putting on the soundtrack to whatever musical I hate at that current time and, doing an interpretive dance. It's just, making sure that the actual room is constructed and fit for, absolute nonsense, is really helpful for me. I've never been a person that's like, I have a desk, and at this time every day, I make a cup of Earl Grey tea and I write a sonnet. I don't do that. In fact, the book that I was talking about, half of it was me getting, from my minimum wage jobs, getting receipts from bags and stuff like that and going and typing it in the computer. It's just, so many different things that I have created have always started in a way that has a story. And I think that's something that I really enjoy about my art, is that I'm making it all the time. And it's just whenever I decide to piece it all together is when you see it, but it's always happening. So
That's great and very relatable. Yeah, I do have some friends who like, morning pages or what have you, but I've never related to that process either. I need a little chaos in my making as well. So I definitely relate. And I want to zoom in on the phrase you said, permission to not be excellent, and even inviting, this is going to be the worst thing that anyone has ever seen. Great, let's go. And that being your prompt. I think that's really great. I might borrow that. I love that.
Do it. I'm telling you, that's the freest I've ever been. That was essentially this. I said, okay, well, because the reference video for this was just a bunch of things that I shot and ideas that I had that I just smushed together. But for this, I said, okay, well, what if I just put people inside that video? I don't know. That's the only goal. Doesn't have to be good. Doesn't have to be whatever. I just take people and I plop them in my brain for a second, and that's enough.
Awesome. Yeah. I just want to invite, if anyone in the audience would like to ask any questions, now's a good time to pop them in the chat. And in the meantime, I'll keep chatting with you. So do you have other characters that you've been living with, such as Sapphire?
Well, I feel strange to be like, yes, the other voices, they speak to me. No, I have been, I don't know if it's a character or I have two beginnings of characters. And so my friend Ayla and I we met in graduate school at Clownlumbia, how we call it. And there is this specific type of speaking that I have named like such as, and it is, if you've ever been in a maybe diversity training or listen to a person speak. I've been in many classes where this has happened, and it's basically what I was talking about, a lot of what Sapphire does, which is just taking buzzwords and smushing them together in one sentence that doesn't actually say anything. So there's been a lot of that. There's also, which I don't know if that's a character, it could be a character, I guess now. That's one. And then also, everything has a story. I was at an open mic one time, and there was a person who was not per se a poet, but more so a lyricist and rapper. And at one point in their very quick rapping that I couldn't understand, they said cinnamon winnamin. And that changed my life. And so finding a way, I have to find a way to make that Cinnamon Winnamin rapper character happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just release a collection. I don't know if, but someone has to bring Cinnamon Winnamin to life, and I think that person is me. So we'll see.
I think so too. I love that. We have a juicy question from the comments from Ayla Sullivan. What kind of work do you want to light on fire and end forever? And then what do you want to plant in its place?
Yep. Ayla was actually with me at the open mic when Cinnamon Winnamin happened. What kind of work do I want to light on fire? Well, I mean, because we just had some very interesting conversations about some work that we'd seen, and I won't at this time disclose. But I think that in general, definitely as this push towards having the hottest take or having the most politically correctly leaning, and that's not the right phrasing. Maybe it's more who has the work that's saying the thing that everyone will retweet, or who has the work that is saying the thing that is correct, that we all should be saying, and that person is right and they are absolved of any other judgment. That creation of work that speaks to things that I don't think we as an entire society have fully digested yet is something that has frustrated me in the past. And so, yes.
Wait, I want to unpack that a little bit.
Yes.
So are you like talking about this sort of pedestalization of a political thought through art?
Yes.
Okay. So like
absolutely that.
When it's like, oh, we all should like this show because it's really saying something, that kind of a thing.
Got it. When it actually is not. Often it's not. And
shows that we're supposed to,
right. I mean, because it's just the, I don't know, race to gain more social capital is really what it is. It's not necessarily often art that is, it's prescriptive. The art is prescriptive. And so that is something that does frustrate me. And I think a lot of times there are some ideas that, begin one way and then end up being that I think if actually developed more, if artists were able to or had to be a little bit more responsible for their work, and answer to the audiences that are seeing their work, and for that discourse to actually matter, for people on Twitter saying this work hurt me in the following ways, and for that to be something that truly has weight on whether or not that show still exists, I think art would change a lot. And so I think I would set that on fire. I would make people have to actually, consider audiences instead of kind of like, I think audiences are expected to consume art, the product of art, from places that they are told to trust. And I think a lot of times we kind of leave the audiences on the platform by prescribing work to them that might not actually be what they need or want. But, it's in the right place at the right time with the right people who are funding the right things and blah, blah, blah. So I would love to set that on fire. And in its place, I would plant so many theaters that have no staff, no board, no donors, no nothing. And they exist and they can exist. And it's just an open space that everyone can use, and you can see the show or not, but whether or not it makes ticket sales or is in the New York Times or in the Broadway Briefing or has a $500,000 billboard in Times Square or blah, 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 blah. I want people to be able to make art just to make art. And I think that is what I would plant in its place. I think I would take away everyone's toys and everyone's pedestals and medals and honors and all of that. And I would throw them in the garbage and I would make art for real. Stop lying to me. That's what I would do.
I hear you sort of imagining like public theaters in the way we have public parks, like the swing set and is there. Anybody can jump on it, kind of an idea.
Absolutely.
That's a really interesting concept. I would love every public park to also have like a little mini stage. I mean, some of them do have little amphitheaters, right? But a lot of them are cordoned off when they're not an official show. But yeah, if they also had like a little tiny costume shop, and you could just like throw on a costume and start a show.
And have the exact same amount of people come. Like, honestly, what I would do is I would kick every single person out of the Jacobs, out of the Winter Garden, out of the blah, 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 all the theaters in the Broadway box. And I would say, no one is allowed to own this theater. And you can come in and use it however you want. That would be my dream.
One thing I wanted to sort of push out a little bit, if I may, is you did mention sort of like, when you said be responsible to the audience, you mentioned like discourse on Twitter. And you do seem like a person who's like very online, as they say. And I would say I am over the fence online. And I'm curious, like, do you feel good about your sort of discourse and relationships that you have online with artists and artist community? Can you like share a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. I also would say that I am the same way. I do love mess. And I am nosy. And so I see it all. But I tweet every 3 years, I think.
You're one of those. You're a Twitter.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see it all. Did you see it? Yeah, I did. I don't know. I think that I think that the internet is a place where a lot of people, because often, especially now in the pandemic and all of that, the ways that we have been ripped apart from each other and incapable of like having little communities where we actually can talk through these big things that we experience and hear about. I think the internet has been a great place for people to do that. And I am always, I'm always learning something. But the next step, when you see something on Twitter that you didn't know before or that you found exciting, is to look it up and find the book that says it and read that book and further your knowledge. Do that. So I find myself doing that often. And I think, especially for artists, it's been a great place to share resources. And it's been a great place to just, especially in the pandemic, which we were talking about before, there were so many people who came out of the woodwork, who were creating amazing work that fueled us during the pandemic. When we had nothing from the major blah, 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 blahs, people really got a chance to be like, well, actually, I'm a person who makes this kind of work. And now that these people aren't in your face, you're seeing me more. And I just do this out of my house. And so, I think you said it before, there was an equalizing that happened. And that was something that was really exciting to me because, also there were people who rose above and and I think often it was the people who have been doing this work always, have been making work, have been making art, but haven't necessarily been in the same places that are on TV or whatever, or have been actively pushed out of places where they would gain more exposure. And I think being able to quiet the larger institutions for a little bit really gave those artists a chance to shine. And that was something that was really exciting to me. So I think I found my little corners of the internet and where that has continued. And that's where I got. Where the Grand Risings debate people be on Twitter, I'm not sure. I don't see it for that. And I would, hey, but y'all have fun.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm also, I am very much changed and influenced by the internet as well. I just had apparently Twitter told me I had my 13-year anniversary because I was an early adopter. Yeah. I literally was in a moment when I was in the Bay Area and Twitter came to my office to pitch us to join Twitter. That's how early adopter I am.
Wow,
They were like,
wow, wow.
please join our thing that no one's on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there is opportunity for really rich dialogue and discourse for sure. I want to ask another question from our audience plant, which is you again going back to being able to be in a residency where you get to be in process. Do you feel like this has changed your approach to art making or given you any more insight to yourself as an artist or maker?
1000%. And I said this in another thing. I was talking, I don't know, whatever thing I was in. I was very thankful for everyone on the staff and their patience with me because they very much had to wean me off of doing everything myself and supported me by force. And I think it was something that I really, really needed because I have almost never been in a space where I have been supported this much and in this way. And it felt really good to kind of have a little community that was rooting for me and joined the chaos. And it felt really good to have a marketing meeting with Eleanor and be like, I don't know. And her being like, I understand. So this is everything that was in your head that you didn't say. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm not inserting any of my opinions in what you've done because this is your work. Have fun. And I was just waiting for the waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never happened. And so, well, we still have one more day, but it's been a really great space.
We have one more day to destroy your dreams and disappoint you.
You know, listen, hey, whatever. I'll remember the good times. But yeah, no, it's been amazing. I wow, yeah. And so I think that now, to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like in the future when I go to another space and they're like, so we will pay you in one gum wrapper and half of a Metro card that you have to figure out. But listen, exposure. And also, everyone here is white. So, oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if I can do it, you guys. I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if that's my ministry anymore. So, and it's all High Arts' fault.
Well, I can speak from whole staff to say I think we're happy to have spoiled you in that way. Thank you so much for letting us force you to get a little support. That's wonderful. So what do you think is next for Sapphire and your collaboration after tomorrow's show?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully she'll stop calling and I'll be able to get some work done. But I'm not sure. I know that they're judging from how long Sapphire has existed. I know that there will be other things that frustrate me. So she'll be around as long as y'all keep acting foolish. So be ye ready. Tread lightly because I see it all. Like I said. And so if y'all are out here doing tomfoolery, don't be surprised if Sapphire parodies you. You are next. Could be next.
That's an excellent omen of terror to end on. Where can folks find you? Are you with your lurking online? Can we follow you anywhere?
Yeah. Yes, I'll be doing this. You can find me. They're cackling. Yes, there we go. J_Délise everywhere on everything. And often drinking tea on the steps of my apartment in a blanket. So if you pass by, say hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the great conversation and the good laughs. Thank you for sending up these institutions with such delight and joy. Again, audience, thank you for being here, and check out Délise online, check out High Arts online, and consider coming by the exhibit tomorrow. We would be happy to have you. All right, that's all, folks.
We did it.